I wanted to die. I had a plan, and I was ready to carry it out. I was going to check myself into the Hotel Vancouver and get myself one of those huge fancy rooms with a soaker tub. And I was going to wash down my stockpiled bag of pills with a magnum of champagne. Luckily, my roommate intervened and called 911. And I ended up in a psychiatric ward for over 4 weeks, weaning off those toxic drugs that were supposed to be my magic cure. My mental health has been a vicious monster that has raged against me my entire life. I've struggled in every area of my life, but the people that have been around me would probably describe me as someone that was fun and vivacious. I probably don't look like it now, but fun and vivacious and up for anything. But I struggled, and my monster was fighting against me. I became so weak, and I couldn't fight anymore. And so I laid in the bed of the psychiatric unit and stared up at the ceiling, trying to figure out how I got here and how I was going to get out. So I don't know if any of you have ever had that kind of stay. It's definitely not the Hotel Vancouver. It's cold and it's clinical. And the place just reeks of tragedy and sadness. And it felt like I was dropped out of my life and cocooned so I could try to find a way to heal. And what happens in the hospital is they try to push you out as soon as they get you in. You only get so much time. So after 4 weeks, I was discharged. And I got no follow-up plan. I got no resources. And I was the person that they assessed as functional and able to manage on her own. Technically, I was stable at this point, but what was happening for me was those memories, all of the disappointments, all of the emotions, all of the feelings, those still persisted within me. And my monster came up behind me and slammed me down against the dirt, and I could barely breathe. The result of that was me lying in my bed for hours and hours. I would only get up once to feed myself. My room was strewn with empty delivery takeout containers. I barely showered, brushed my teeth or combed my hair. I could barely make it out of my house. I used to say that I was only good for about 2 hours. And then after 2 hours, when I was out in the world, it felt like it was closing in on me. Even simple things, going to get a coffee or taking the bus, everything became so magnified and terrifying for me. Going to a grocery store was like a war zone. It was sensory overload between the bright lights and the clanging and the clinging, all those sounds. I could barely go in and get something without suffering major consequences. My monster held me captive one time for 35 days. I didn't leave the house until there was an opening. My monster stepped back and I was able to run out, only to run back in. My roommate ended up saying to me very honestly one night, she said, "I hate coming home. I hate coming home because I know I call out your name and I open the door to your room And I'm terrified that you are going to be cold and white, lying there pale, dead from an overdose of pills. It kind of hit me because it wasn't just me it was was other people. And so I knew that living this way was not normal. I knew that I had to figure out a way forward to heal, but I didn't know how. So I continued so hard to try to figure out how to make this work. And eventually, I was having coffee with a friend. He was someone that I met while I was in the hospital. We were both hospitalized together, and we created this deep bond because of our shared experience. We called ourselves the Pajama Club because unless you wear those pukey polyester threadbare pajamas, you really don't know what it's like to be hospitalized. But I want to say there's highs and there's lows. It's not all low because you make friendships and you find your way. He told me about a website called Spotlight on Mental Health. And it's a hub for resources and support groups. And it was something that when I looked at it, it was what I had been searching for so long. And as I looked at it, I thought, I need to try these things. I need to try these groups. I have to keep pushing forward. And that's what I did. I kept pushing forward and tried to find a way to find some wellness, to find some balance, to keep that monster away. Because during this time, it seemed like I had a little space. And I had some realizations during this time as well. I realized that I am not my mental illness, that I don't define myself by it. I've been talking about it a lot in the last year, but I do not define myself by it. I also realized that I had to take personal responsibility for my own recovery, for my own wellness. And part of that was finding ways to have hope and connection. My recovery is all about hope and connection. Oh. But the other thing that I discovered was because I had been unwell for most of my life, I've been on medication, and I realized every time I go to the doctor and say, this isn't working, give me something else, give me something else. And I was always hoping I would pop that pill for the first time and stick it in my mouth, and hoping that it would be magically transforming my life, and that never happened. It's the hard work. So my monster at this point was sort of keeping a little bit back, wasn't really sure what was going on with me, seeing these changes, so I took the opportunity to stand tall, and I leapt. And I ended up working on a community-based mental health project, which is what I do right now. And it's all about examining the experiences of people who have mental illness, just like myself. And what I found after working on this project for a very short time is that I found passion and I found purpose. And with that, there became so many opportunities. I facilitate groups, I consult on projects, I create programs, but most of all, I help people in our community. And it really fills my heart. And not only that, I've had some personal growth as well. This past summer, I spoke on a radio show, and it was the first time I spoke about my mental health journey. And it was a raw, very honest interview. I was surprised what I was sharing, but it was a huge step forward for me, as was being an ambassador for Dress for Success. That has also been a huge step forward for me, because I have found my voice and the opportunity to share with others. It's amazing how when you share, or at least for me, when I've shared, I've had so many people come up to me and say, I can relate to your experience. And I'm sorry that they can relate to my experience, but it's also really powerful to know that there's connection, because it's all about connection and it's all about hope. So I still have dark days. There are days when I have to wrestle that monster and jab it in the eye so I can get going. But I have the tools to do that now. And I'm confident that I can live a better life. So I'm going to end with one more thing. You know, after everything I have told you, it's so weird to walk by the Hotel Vancouver. It is really, it's a weird feeling for me to walk by, because it's this remembrance of something that could have gone very differently. But you know what? I still have a plan. I am still going to check into the Hotel Vancouver, and I'm going to take that Magnum champagne, and I'm going to fill bubbles in that damn tub, and I'm going to celebrate my life. Thank you.